It only took about 10 seconds for my entire sense of safety to disappear, and yeah, that sounds dramatic, but if you've ever had a calm moment ripped away for no reason at all, you know exactly what I mean. 1 second, I was standing in my own driveway, loading bags into my SUV, thinking about a work trip and whether I'd forgotten my running shoes. And the next second, I heard a police car slow down behind me, heard a door open hard, and a voice bark out, "Don't move. Hands where I can see them." That was it. That was the moment. And no matter how much time has passed, no matter how the story ends, I can still feel that exact second in my chest. It was a perfect morning, too, which almost makes it worse. Blue sky, warm sun, sprinklers ticking across green lawns, neighbors out washing cars and waving. The kind of neighborhood people point at when they talk about quiet, safe, respectable. I'd earned my place there, worked for it, sacrificed for it, and I was proud of it. My wife had taken the kids out of town for the weekend, the house was quiet, and I was packing for a training assignment that would start Monday. No rush, no stress, just me moving at my own pace. Then the patrol car stopped right in front of my house, and suddenly I wasn't just a guy loading his car anymore. I turned slowly because that's what training drills into you. Slow movements, visible hands. Don't give anyone a reason to think you're a threat. The officer was already halfway toward me, hand resting on his gun, eyes locked in that way that tells you he's already decided who you are. "Step away from the vehicle," he snapped. I did. 2 steps back, hands up. Calm, controlled. "Officer," I said, "this is my driveway. I'm loading my own car." He didn't even blink. "You don't load bags like that unless you're up to something," he said. "Who do you think you are?" That question hits different when you know you've done nothing wrong. I told him my name, told him I lived there, told him I was the homeowner. I even pointed toward the front door, the house number right there in plain sight. He shook his head like I was telling a bad joke. "Sure you do." You could hear the dismissal in his voice, the certainty. At that point, I already knew this wasn't about facts. This was about a picture he had in his head, and I didn't fit where he thought I belonged. I asked permission to reach for my wallet because, yeah, that's how careful you have to be. He nodded without relaxing, and I pulled out my military ID first, the same one I'd carried through years of service. He glanced at it for maybe a second and waved it away. "Anyone can buy these online," he said. That stung more than I expected, not because of the ID itself, but because of what it represented. Years of my life dismissed like a cheap prop. I handed him my driver's license, same address as the house behind me. He barely looked, could be fake too. I remember thinking, okay, so nothing I show you is going to matter, and that's a dangerous realization to have while you're standing there with your hands up and an armed officer deciding your fate. He said there'd been a call about a suspicious person loading bags, said it looked like a burglary. I actually laughed just a short breath of disbelief because the idea was so absurd. "Burglary," I said, "in my own driveway." That's when another patrol car pulled up. A second officer stepped out, and for a brief moment I felt this tiny flicker of relief. She looked around, actually looked. The open trunk, the bags, the military stickers on the car, the calm scene that didn't match the story her partner was telling. She asked him if he'd verified the address. He snapped back, "I know what I'm looking at." And she went quiet. That silence still bothers me more than almost anything else, because she knew. You could see it on her face. And she chose not to step in. "Turn around," the first officer said, pulling out his handcuffs. I stared at him. I asked him what law I'd broken. I told him I'd complied with everything. My voice cracked just a little, not because I was scared, but because I couldn't believe how fast this had gone off the rails. He didn't answer. He just repeated the order. I looked at the second officer, hoping she'd finally say something. She looked away. So I turned around. The cuffs clicked shut around my wrists, too tight, cold metal biting into skin, and in that moment, standing there in front of my own house, I felt smaller than I had in a very long time. I spoke directly to the body camera because part of me already knew this was going to matter. I said my name. I said I was being arrested without probable cause. I said the arrest was unlawful. Neighbors started gathering, murmuring, some shouting that this was my house, that I lived there. It didn't stop anything. A few minutes later, my wife's car pulled up. The sound she made when she saw me in handcuffs is something I'll never forget. Shock, fear, anger all at once. She ran toward me and was told to stay back. Yeah, that happened. The ride to the station was quiet. I stared out the window, breathing slow, keeping my composure, because that's what I'd been trained to do my entire adult life. Inside the station, everything shifted. The booking officer ran my information and froze. No record, no tickets. Verified service, verified address. She looked at the arresting officer and asked what I'd done. He didn't answer. A supervisor reviewed the body camera footage, both angles, the refusal to verify the dismissal of ID, the escalation. When he walked out of that room, his face told me this was over, at least for the day. I sat in a holding cell for hours anyway. No charges, no explanation, just waiting. Finally, I was released with a quiet apology that sounded more like embarrassment than accountability. Sorry for the inconvenience, they said. Inconvenience. Like they double-parked me instead of handcuffing me in my own driveway in front of my family. I didn't go home and try to forget it. I couldn't. Something inside me had cracked open, and I knew if I didn't push back, this would just be another story buried under paperwork and silence. I called a lawyer, then another. What we uncovered made my stomach turn. The officer who arrested me had a history. Dozens of stops, same